Imagine this. You wake up, and before your eyes even focus, your hand is already reaching for the phone. The day is a blur of scheduled minutes, a cascade of tasks where checking off a box only creates 3 more. You move faster, yet arrive nowhere. You produce, but do not create. You are exhausted, yet you cannot sit in a quiet room alone with your thoughts. This is not productivity. It is a fever. A silent, screaming urgency has become the default rhythm of your being. Here is the unsettling paradox. We claim to desire peace, yet we ritualistically avoid it. We speak of freedom, yet we meticulously construct cages of obligation. Why? Why do we wear busyness like a badge of honor, a fragile armor against some unseen threat? What are we so desperately outrunning? This is more than a bad habit. It is a metaphysical escape, a rebellion against a profound and terrifying vacancy. The to-do list is a shield. The calendar is a prison you have learned to call home. But from what? The question hangs in the air, heavier than any deadline. The truth is, your addiction to noise is a direct measure of your terror of silence. And in that silence, something essential is waiting. Something you have been fleeing your entire life. To stop moving, then, is not laziness. It is the bravest confrontation you will ever face. The threshold to the answer lies not in adding another commitment, but in the courage to remove one. The journey inward begins with a single defiant pause. The shield you carry is not of your own making. It was forged in the fires of a society that sold you a devastating lie, that your worth is transactional. Your identity has become a function of your output. We flee into busyness because we have been taught that stillness is synonymous with worthlessness. The philosopher Blaise Pascal saw it centuries ago. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. This is the hidden problem. Busyness is a socially sanctioned anesthetic for existential pain. Psychologist Carl Jung warned that the unused, unexplored life turns against us. Our frantic doing is a desperate attempt to outrun the inner work we fear, the confrontation with our own shadows, our unresolved traumas, our nagging questions of purpose. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre called this mauvaise foi, bad faith. We choose the comforting, predetermined script of being busy to avoid the terrifying responsibility of crafting our own authentic meaning. It is a distraction from the abyss. We have externalized our sense of self. Your calendar is not a plan. It is a borrowed identity. Every notification is a tiny hit of validation, a fleeting relief from the anxiety of intrinsic insignificance. This is not time management. It is soul management, and you have handed the keys to forces outside yourself. The clock ticks, measuring not hours, but your gradual disappearance. But into what void does this frantic energy pour? The consequences of this trade are more intimate and more devastating than you have allowed yourself to feel. If this confrontation with the void beneath your busyness resonates, subscribe. Your journey inward is just beginning, and the path ahead demands a guide. The consequence is a slow spiritual atrophy. You become a ghost in the machine of your own life, mistaking motion for meaning. Neurologically, you are conditioning your brain for perpetual crisis. The constant trip of dopamine from small completions, the answered email, the cleared notification, rewires you for shallow engagement, eroding your capacity for deep, sustained thought. The cognitive bias known as the mere urgency effect takes hold. You prioritize the loudly urgent over the quietly important. Culturally, this creates a collective silence. We are a society of human doings, not human beings, numbed by a constant low-grade alarm. As Aldous Huxley foresaw in Brave New World, we are distracted by a sea of irrelevance, loving our oppression, adoring the technologies that unravel our capacity for attention. The unseen cost is the erosion of your inner world, the death of contemplation, the stifling of creativity that only blooms in boredom, the loss of the ability to simply be with a loved one without an underlying itch to document or escape. This is the true crisis. your life becomes a reaction, not a creation. Your memories blur into a monochrome streak of stress. You lose the texture of your own existence. The terror of missing out is replaced by the tragedy of having been absent for your own life. But if this is the trap, what is the key? The rebellion does not begin with doing less, but with seeing differently. A single radical thought can shatter the entire pain. The rebellion begins with a single subversive act, the intentional cultivation of boredom. It is in the unscripted, unoptimized moment that the self reawakens. This is not passive idleness, but active resistance. It is the philosophy of the flanger, who wanders the city with no goal but to observe, and the practice of the mystic, who sits in stillness to encounter the divine. Viktor Frankl, surviving the horrors of the concentration camp, realized that the last of human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Your first act of defiance is to choose irrelevance. Start by scheduling emptiness. Guard it with the ferocity you now reserve for meetings. Sit in a room without a device. Walk without a destination. Listen to the silence until it becomes a presence, not an absence. This space is where you encounter what the busyness muted, your own unresolved grief, your buried dreams, your authentic desires. It will feel like withdrawal because it is. You are detoxifying from a world built to own your attention. This is how you reclaim authorship. You begin to measure your life not by density, but by depth. You discover that your worth is not a metric, but a mystery to be lived. This shift from performer to poet of your own existence changes everything. But it leads to one final, terrifying, and liberating question. If not for the validation, the distraction, noise, who are you when you finally become still? The ultimate truth awaits in that silence. The ultimate truth is this: your addiction to busyness was a pilgrimage to a hollow shrine. It was a desperate, lifelong search for validation in an external echo chamber, hoping the noise would finally shout down the quiet voice within. It whispered, "You are enough." But that voice is not your enemy. It is your essence. The final realization is that the silence you feared was not a void, but the container of your own being. The meaning you sought to manufacture through doing was only ever waiting to be received through being. This is the paradigm shift. You are not a problem to be solved through productivity, but a mystery to be inhabited. Your worth is inherent, anterior to all action. The philosopher Alan Watts articulated it. The meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so staggeringly simple, it feels like an insult to the complexity we've constructed. The frantic striving was a ghost dance, trying to appease gods that never existed. Gods of prestige, of perfected legacy, of someday when. So let the world spin on its axis of haste. Your rebellion is complete, not when your calendar is empty, but when your presence is full. When you can stand in the center of your own life, undistracted and unapologetic, and finally hear the singular, beautiful truth. You were never meant to be a furnace, burning yourself out to keep others warm. You were meant to be a hearth, a still point of gathered light and warmth, where being itself is the ultimate and only necessary achievement. If this truth found a home in your stillness, subscribe. Our channel is dedicated to exploring how to live from that hearth, not the furnace.